Anurag, shall I start the session now, or you have something to say? Okay, so let's stay. So I hope it's shorted for everyone, so everyone can hear my voice. I'm just raising my chat window, and let's start with today's session. So welcome to this session. It's a demo for Weblogic 12C. It's a presentation on that, organized by BISP Solutions. Okay, so it's about me. So I am Weblogic and Fusion Middleware experts. I have around 10 years of experience in Oracle Fusion Middleware technologies. Fusion Middleware, I have worked as an implementation specialist, and I have helped customers working on Fusion Middleware products like Weblogic, OBI, SOA, Apache, OHS, Oracle Application Server, Oracle Access Manager, Oracle Identity Manager, Indica, or Weblogic Portal. I've trained 100+ trainees and 10+ corporate clients. Right, so this is the agenda for today's session. So everything will be in brief. It won't be much elaborated, but so that everyone understands what we are going to discuss today. So agenda for today's webinar would be introduction to Weblogic, followed by a bit of history onto it. Then we'll discuss something on the application server versions, then Fusion product overview. Because 12C is mainly Fusion middleware oriented, so we'll be discussing a lot of Fusion middleware here. And then few of the Fusion supported services which has become part of Fusion middleware, Fusion features, and then Weblogic server domain contents, and then server versioning information, followed by a multi-tenancy, which is very specific to 12C Fusion middleware product, and it is one of the most exciting features of Weblogic 12C, popularly known as Weblogic MT. And then a bit on admin console features. Okay, so I'll kickstart this session. So a bit on the history, quickly, I'll just recap. So how Weblogic came into picture, it was actually a BEA system, which was an intranet software product system. Oracle bought it in 2008. So it was actually a company which was founded in San Jose, California in 1995. Later, it bought one of the companies, San Francisco-based company called Weblogic in 1998. And in 2005, it has launched ThinkLiquid, which is popularly known as SOA, Service-Oriented Architecture today. So it was all owned by BEA earlier. But later in 2007, October, Oracle had plans to buy it, and they offered them $6.7 billion to buy BEA systems. On April 2008, that deal was completed, and it was bought by Oracle. Right. So there were three main features of BEA. It was Tuxedo, BEA Weblogic, and BEA Aqualogic, which popularly known today as Oracle Tuxedo, Oracle Weblogic Server, and Oracle Service Bus. So this session we'll be discussing on Oracle Weblogic Server. So this is just a bit on a history so that we know where Weblogic came from. Now, this is a billion-dollar question. Why do we learn Weblogic? What is the need for us to learn Weblogic? Okay, so it's pretty clear. I was just going through a few websites. So one of the most popular websites, Indeed and ZipRecruiter. We can see that Weblogic is huge in demand. You can see the average salary is of $90,000 for a Weblogic administrator being in US or Canada. And these are some of the openings right today. You can see on the screen from Indeed or ZipRecruiter that is starting from, or even for a fresher, salary starts from somewhere around $70,000. So that's pretty high in demand. So certainly, if someone gets into Weblogic, it's a feature to go for. Right, so before I proceed, this is what I do. I would like to interact with my people or whoever are there in the session. So a brief introduction from you all so that we can continue with the session and I understand your expectation from the session. So you can introduce briefly, just tell what you do currently, your interest. You can see that on the screen and just quickly put it in the chat window so that I understand who all are there in the session and what your expectations are. Quickly. So I'm waiting to hear from you. Just mention like what you do currently, why you're interested in this training, and what your future aspirations are. And you are already working on WebLogic, or you're planning to switch. I'll just wait for a minute, and then if I don't see an answer, I'll just proceed. Okay, Pramod says he was in WS admin, he wants to learn WLS. Great. Good, Pramod, so you are right onto the spot. So who else we got? Anyone else? Okay, guys, it's good if you guys interact so that we understand what we are looking for. Interacting is always good to understand your needs and how you want to get a good outcome from this training. Okay, so I'll just proceed. Maybe we can proceed further. We are a little short on time so that we don't miss much of a time. All right, so I'm going further. I'm considering everyone interested in this WebLogic training, and maybe they want to transition to WebLogic, or maybe they are new to WebLogic, want to move into WebLogic, to expand their horizon and to understand this product better, or to get into other products, because everything these days is run on top of WebLogic. Right. So I'll proceed with this. Okay, so this is a typical diagram of a 3-tier architecture, also middleware architecture. Nothing changes for Fusion middleware, it's still the same. So you have internet at the top. You have, in older days, you had PDA. These days, you have overview of WebLogic server. So this is the roadmap WebLogic have progressed so far throughout these years. So in 2000, you can see it was 11GR 10.3.1 to 6. Hold on a second. I don't see cursor here. Okay, yeah, it's back. Right. So right here in 2010, Oracle 11G version, which is 10.3.1 to 10.3.6. So this is one of the popular as 11G. Based on Java Enterprise 6, followed by 12.1.2 in 2013. That's when the Fusion middleware 12c infrastructure was launched onto the cloud platform, followed by in 2014, before they got 12.1.3, and then later it was 12.1.4, which was with multi-tenant feature. So you can see that slowly it has progressed, and new and additional features have been added throughout the years. So this is the roadmap for your understanding how WebLogic has grown throughout. Right, so this is how it has moved. So earlier in the previous era, when WebLogic used to run, it used to run on premises. You deploy your application and run it on servers. You know, it can be HP server or IBM server, Sun, Solaris, anything. So your WebLogic server is running on a conventional system. Mainly you have on-premises servers where you have hosted your machines, servers, and then WebLogic onto it, and you're running your application. Later, in the year 2012 to 14, Exalogic came into picture, the engineer system, which was actually designed for WebLogic servers to work faster with it. and it was running on engineered system, and many of the clients, they moved into the system to make their system faster and efficient, especially the e-commerce and telecom websites, they moved into it. Now, progressing further, and the focus for Oracle now is into cloud. They are putting huge investments into the cloud, so they are moving towards cloud. And Oracle Weblogic Server now can be easily moved from to and fro from the cloud. So if you have something running on-premises, or if you're running something on Exalogic server, you can simply move into the cloud with easy because of these partitions and multi-tenancy features. So you can move it to the cloud, you can take it back from the cloud back to your on-premises. So that flexibility is coming in with the Oracle new enhancements putting in that. So, but from conventional system, now it's slowly moving into cloud because Oracle wants everything to be running on top of cloud. And trust me, whatever Fusion middleware products you have worked on, being it SOA, OBI, HTTP server, everything is running on top of WebLogic these days. So WebLogic 2LC is a must now. Right, so application server, which is middleware, it resides between the front end and back end. We have seen in the screen earlier. And this is another example where you can see client. It can be a browser or tablet, your phones or anything. You just send a request which goes into application, which is your WebLogic server, and then which further goes into database. Right, so it was acquired in 2008. So WebLogic server is one of the most popular one comparing to your Tomcat or WebSphere. So because WebLogic currently owns 70% of the market throughout the world, so it is certainly one of the most popular one, and it is one of the industry leading Java Enterprise Edition application server. It has replaced Oracle Application Server, which I have worked with Oracle Application Server back then for forms and reports, and I must tell you, it is one of the most hectic, piece of server to handle. It's like a few issues and it just screws up everything. So WebLogic has gone quite far from there. And WebLogic Server is required for Oracle Fusion middleware products. So all the Oracle Fusion middleware products, name it, in 12c, and everything runs on top of WebLogic Server. So it has a set of APIs for creating distributed Java applications. You can access many services such as JMS, JDBC, RMI, web services, XML, EGB. Okay, so people who are not familiar with these terms as of now, or maybe you are very new to WebLogic and you are attending this first session and you don't have much knowledge into WebLogic. So these are some of the services which are available for WebLogic. So we can expand it further, so don't worry about it. We can deal with it later. Right, so this is what Oracle tells about WebLogic. So these are the new features they have put in to lower the cost of operations, for improving performance and enhancing scalability. So it provides flexibility between on-premises and third-party clouds. Like I said, if you want to run it on cloud, you can run it on Oracle Cloud, or at the same time, you can run it on Amazon or Google Cloud. So it is possible, any cloud in the world, it is possible to run your WebLogic onto that platform. So that flexibility is available now. So it increases developer productivity with mobile application development and Maven support. Yeah, the new enhancements which is coming on for developers. It is optimized for Oracle Exalogic Elastic Cloud. So this particular machine is from Oracle itself. It's Exalogic, which is optimized to run WebLogic, and WebLogic runs faster in that particular machine. Now this provides extreme cloud performance, scalability, and elasticity. Elasticity is like as and when you want. We have dynamic clusters in WebLogic. You'll see later in this section. Right, so the current release which we will be going, this is the version which we'll be dealing with. Anything installation, all our operations will be performed on this particular version. But just in case you guys have queries or like you want to, see something on the other versions, we can just have a look. But we'll be focusing on this version, which is the current release of WebLogic 12c, 12.2.1.2. There are previous releases, which is 12.1.2 and 12.1.3. And in 11G, 10.3.5 and 10.3.6. This is just for your reference so that you know how WebLogic has progressed so far. If you look at the bottom, the first one was WebLogic Tenga when it came in 1997, then 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, and goes into further up to 12C. So this is just for your reference so that you know what all versions came into picture and how enhancements has put in, what new features were added, and you can manage it whenever you go online and see. Right, so let's start with Fusion middleware now. which is the soul of WebLogic currently coming in. So what is Fusion middleware actually? So Fusion middleware actually it's a collected term. It is used to describe many Fusion middleware products like you can see OBI, which is business intelligence, your integration tools such as SOAS suite or OSP, your web center content or web portal, web center portal, identity management or Oracle Access Manager, monitoring such as OEM cloud control. So all these actually all together. There are various other products, ADF, JDeveloper, that also comes as part of it. So there are many products which together is actually called Fusion middleware. But sometimes people refer that WebLogic only is the Fusion middleware. Although if you go to download, it does say FMW WebLogic installer, but it is not only for WebLogic. So everything together is called Oracle Fusion middleware, just for your understanding. Right, so what are the new features in 12.2.1? So yeah, these are the new features handy, which I have collected for you guys. The domain partitions is one. Resource groups, resource group templates, these are all part of multi-tenant. So if you have not heard of this, don't worry about it. We'll see that later in the section. And other new features are, which is introduced by Oracle over the time, is zero downtime patching. So, earlier days when there was a patching requirement, server has to be shut down and then patching used to be applied. And you need to take a downtime from the client for that. But these days, you can just go about without putting it down and you can do the patching on rolling basis. So it has automatic orchestration, so you can do zero time patching. WebLogic multi-tenant live partition migration. So even though your WebLogic application server is running, you can migrate your partitions from one to another. Move from one cluster to another. This has become quite easier, so you can move from one cluster to another. Coherence persistence and cache data persistence to durable storage. So these are the new features which is being added to 12.2.1. Right, so there are a few further changes. These are new and changed features. The reason what was there in 11G, so something has been changed or something has become new. For example, if someone would have worked with 11G, any of the products of 11G, you would have noticed there was something called OPMN, and OPMN is start, stop, or status is what you guys would have checked it earlier, but that is no longer available with Fusion middleware. So instead, now everything is managed through WebLogic management framework, and you have scripts for everything now. You can run, stop, start, status, check, everything you can do through the scripts now. And OPMN internally it does call it, but it is not available as direct use in the new versions. So there is a change in middleware topology as well. Oracle Home has been changed, and there is no middleware home now, which was there in 11G. We will see a graphical diagram for this later on. And for Node Manager, there is a big change. Now it supports per domain. So it was per machine earlier, but now it supports per domain. So you can have a Node Manager per domain now. And this one, Oracle Web Cache. If you have worked with Web Gateway, or if you have worked with any other tool which uses Web Cache. Okay, so what is Node Manager? So Right. So a little bit on the Fusion middleware product, so that you know what Fusion middleware products are. Okay. So in terms of Oracle WebLogic Server, it is scalable enterprise Java platform, and it is based on version 7.0. The earlier was based on 6.0 Java Enterprise Edition. So it supports deployment of distributed application. It supports SOA architecture. It's implementation of 7.0 specifications. So any codings, or if you want to develop your programs, you have to do that in Java 1.7 or higher. Even for the production, you do need 1.8. So we'll see that when we'll go for installation and other things. So it can have variety of services. You can access database. You can access messaging service. Messaging service is popularly known as JMS, Java Messaging Service. And if you want to connect to external enterprise system, it may be your Exadata, or it may be your Exalogic, or any other outside vendors. Maybe it may be your F5 load balancer as well. Now, end user clients access this application using web browser, as we have seen in the diagram earlier, and it enables enterprise to deploy mission critical applications, and it allows enterprise to configure clusters for WebLogic for distribution of load or providing extra capacity in case of hardware or failure. So these are some of the features of Fusion middleware product for Oracle WebLogic Server. Now, if you would see this, this is a nice picture. Okay, so there is a question from Ravi: is Java required? Let me just go back to question. Is Java required in system to run WebLogic? Yes, of course, Java is required in the system to run WebLogic. Without Java, and especially without having a proper Java, I should say, your WebLogic will not work efficiently. Sometimes even with older version, WebLogic can work, but if you don't have the correct version, it won't be a compatible match, and then it won't work properly. So we need to go as per certification metrics. So there is something called certification metrics, which probably we'll see in module 2, or like day 2 or day 3, where we'll go through certification metrics, and then it will show us which JDK to install for which particular version of product. So if you want to go for OBI, which JDK to install. If you want to go for a particular version of WebLogic, which JDK to install. So we'll get all those info when we'll go for installation, or when we go for preparing our environment for installation or configuration. Right. So let's see at this diagram. So you see that WebLogic right in the center. Now, if you would have heard of any of these projects, let's say if you have heard of Oracle Enterprise Manager, SOA, Identity Management, Grid Infrastructure, which is database, Business Intelligence, or Web Center. So any of these products, as in Fusion, everything is running off top of WebLogic. That means in case you have installed your Oracle Enterprise Manager, that is running on top of your WebLogic server. If you have Web Center or Business Intelligence, that is running on your top of your WebLogic server. Or if you have SOA, Identity Management, anything, that's actually running on top of your WebLogic server. Even if you would have noticed that 18C is coming into the picture, so it is utilizing everything for monitoring and other things. Right. So this is one of the good questions. So this is especially for the new people, someone who is very new to WebLogic, and someone who has already worked as an administrator, they would know. But for someone who is new, what WebLogic administrator actually do? So these are the daily tasks for admins. So one foremost is installing. Most of the time as a WebLogic administrator, you may have to install these on maybe monthly basis or weekly basis, depending upon your client. I have worked at the time where, every week there was a requirement to install tens or, hundreds of servers. So you have to create auto deployments and then install WebLogic in all the systems. So installation is one. Then configuring, so you have to configure your environment using domain templates, administration server, managed server, cluster, machines, node manager. So these are a few of the basics. As soon as you install, you have to configure and you have to create your admin server, managed server, clusters, machines, and node manager. These are like one of the basics ones which you have to do. Then you have to do configuration of service. So in case you have JDBC, JTA, JMS, bridges, any of these, you have to configure those services as per your requirement. Then once these are done, you will go ahead and deploy your application. It can be any WAR file or an EJB file or JAR file, depending upon what your application is. And then start, stop WebLogic servers. Yes, this is one of the predominant in WebLogic era. because there are issues throughout the time you work with the environment. So sometimes your server doesn't respond. It does require a restart, or you may face memory issue or some other issue which is unexplained. So you may have to restart your server, or as a part of maintenance as well. People do it on Saturdays, on Sundays. They schedule it to bounce the server so that everything goes smooth during business hours. Okay, proactive monitoring and troubleshooting. Yes, one of the most important for WebLogic guys, other than installing, clustering, configuring, and deploying. They have to proactively monitor especially during business hours. And in case of any issues, yeah, definitely you have to troubleshoot it, because you are WebLogic admin, so you have to do it. Then performance tuning, yes, because over the time, when system is new, everything works fine, but over a time it goes slow, or there are new deployments and coming in, or memory leaks, anything, some issues comes into picture. So that is something WebLogic administrator has to do it, maybe on daily basis or weekly basis, as and when issue comes in, you have to look into that. So it can be heap or perm gen issue or out of memory issue. So this is what it says, out of memory exceptions. So these are the WebLogic admin tasks which you will be doing maybe on daily basis or weekly basis, monthly basis, every day. You never know, as and when it comes. And you can see right here, this is how it looks. It's small though. We can see it when we later on the later sections. So these are this is how it console looks. This is the EM console. This is how it looks. So this is admin console. This is EM console, and this is your command prompt. You can use it. So you can configure, deploy, start, stop, or monitor. So this is nothing but your WebLogic management framework, using which you control your WebLogic environment. So you do changes, you do administration, you do monitoring, or you set up alerts. So this is how you do it. This is for your WebLogic or coherence. Right, so some features of Fusion Middleware features. So we have seen what Fusion Middleware is, how it resides, what it comes with, and just few additional features. So the key concepts within Fusion Middleware, it does matches with earlier versions, just maybe few extra ones. So it has domain, administration server, managed servers, and managed server clusters, Java components, system components, which is part of it. It doesn't have a separate start-stop. Node manager, standalone domain, Oracle Fusion Middleware directories, WebLogic management framework, metadata repository, and there is something which I have not updated. It's multi-tenant feature. So you can also say domain partitions. Right. So Fusion supported services. So these are some of the services. We can quickly go through it just to explain what services comes in with Fusion. So you have web applications, which is used for displaying your dynamic web pages. You have web services, using which you can talk to your web-based application through networks. It supports that. XML for data exchange, you need that. Java messaging service, this is required for your messaging for communications between one system to another system or within the same system. And JDBC, which is your database connectivity. So if you want your WebLogic to connect to database, talk to database, so this is how you do it using JDBC service. Resource adapters, this is more like a file resource adapter or database DB adapter. So if you want to some additional features, so you can use these resource adapter service. Enterprise Java Beans, if you want to talk to EJB clients, objects, you need these EJB. RMI, if you want to talk to remote objects, you need RMI service. Security APIs, this is required for your authorization and authentication. This will be covered during your security. I think this is later in the section, somewhere in the later days. So when we'll talk about LDAP, or how do you create users, how do you create security for how to provide access to the users, all those things. And then WebLogic Tuxedo connectivity. Yeah, so this is inbuilt in-house tool of WebLogic Tuxedo. As we have seen in the first slide in history, Tuxedo was actually part of VE. When Oracle bought it, it has become WebLogic Tuxedo. And then coherence. So these are all part of Fusion supported services. We should just know so that we know what comes with Fusion. If there's a Fusion middle product, these all services will be part of this for sure. Right, so these are some features. So what does this Fusion provides? So high availability, you can see it for everything. You can see it for cluster, coherence, manager, network channels, KMS, source, about everything. So it does provide availability for each and every all components within Fusion Middleware. And the diagnostic framework in case you want to debug or provide extra logging, so that is going to pretty much available. Security, same of authentication and authorization. You have client options if you want to set what client want, those kind fusion is, what product is. Now we get deep into WebLogic domain. So what WebLogic domain is, feature. Right. So domain domain is your, it controls the system. For example, you see here it's with. Now we'll get domains come into. You can have two domain machines, or you can have your domain span across several machines. So is nothing one. As soon as it's your domain, it is your all resources, your applications, your everything. So the whole is your domain. It's a hard system. So if you want to create a domain, there are two ways. You can have multiple domains for single installation. So for example, you just have one server and can create two within that server. So that is being possible. So you have installed WebLogic, but using con utility, you can convince two domains in the same machine. Or you can across. So I have machine B, machine. If I want to, I can expand my domain across all these machines. So I create domains. Servers can be on the other two, which is known as horizontal clustering, which will be discussed when we get into clustering sessions. Right, so this is WebLogic server domain contains. So what all you have within a domain, you have admin server, you have managed server, you have cluster. Like I said, a domain is your like heart of your system. Everything, all your resources, servers, components, you know, everything, services, everything is part of your domain. So as you can see here, hold on, I don't see my cursor again. Yeah, it's fine. So you can see here admin server, then you have managed server and their resources, services. Similarly, if you have managed servers under a cluster, everything resource services becomes part of that cluster. So you have admin server, managed server, cluster, and resource and services, which consists of your machine, network channel, and machine here is nothing but your node manager. And then virtual host, JDBC, JMS. So these are all resources and services. There are various others, but this is just a typical example. Now, domain configuration file, if you create a domain, this is the file which is being created automatically when your domain is created, and all your domain configuration is being stored into this file. Any changes to this file, and if this file gets corrupted, your domains get corrupted. So whenever you want to change to this file, it is advisable you don't change it first of all. If you just want to change it, you better take a backup and then do it. Right, so single domain. Standalone domain. So this is also possible. Usually when you create a domain, you create one admin server is created by default, even if you don't choose it, and you create managed servers and other services on top of it. But in case there are some servers where it just consists of one. Oracle HTTP server is one example where it doesn't need anything and there is just one server which handles everything. So you have just one web host and HTTP server. In case of WebLogic, if you want to create a standalone domain, that means you just have admin server and no additional managed servers. That makes it a standalone domain. So you don't have any other resources, just one server, the default server. So while doing the installation, if you don't select anything, admin server gets created by default. And until you create other servers and other services, that's your default standalone domain. Right, a typical WebLogic server domain, this is how it looks. So you'll have administration server at the top, which consists of your enterprise manager. Then you'll have a cluster, which is named as infra_cluster1 here, followed by machine. This machine is nothing but your node manager, which controls your all managed servers. and then which is connected to your DB host, which is not part of the application server, but your database one, DB host. Within app host, you have WebLogic domain consisting of your administration server, enterprise manager, your cluster, your machine, which is a node manager, and managed server and its infrastructure. So that's a typical domain example. Right, so just we understood what the domain is, and let's just briefly get into that directory structure. So this is the directory structure for 12c and how it looks. So you have Oracle at the top. So when you install, although you can, if you want, you can change it, but it's good if you keep it that way. So you follow this directory structure. So this is how it gets created. You will have Oracle at the top, followed by config and products. These two folders will be created. Under config, you will have application home and domain home. Within domain home, you'll have bin, config, node manager, security, server, system components. And under Oracle home, you will have other WL server, Oracle common home, OPatch, config utility, install, inventory, and OEI. Now, what happens, let's say when you install a new Fusion Middleware product, all those products become part of this. So that's why Oracle has segregated it now. So let's say if you want to integrate something with the WebLogic, for example, I want to integrate SOA or OBI, so or any other tool. So I can install this, or OAM, let's say, for example, I want to OAM. I will install WebLogic, and then on top of that, I will install OAM, which comes here under products, and your WebLogic domain home will be created in. So once I install all those products, all products details will be created here. And when I create that domain, that becomes integrated domain for both WebLogic and OAM. So this is the direct structure which is created by. And your application home is nothing but whatever deployments you do these days, that goes into application home. So that's being a change. If you would have worked in 11G, it's completely different. Even your node manager, your direct structure, it's completely different. Okay, so Oracle WebLogic server. Right, so this is how it looks. It's typical example where you have a console. Using this console, you control your administration server. So your administration server is nothing but the one which controls the whole environment, the whole your domain. So and everything is being logged into your domain log. Hold on, okay, it's back. Sorry guys, I'm just missing my cursor back and again. Right, so if administration server, it controls everything. So all configuration, any changes you make to the system, that gets logged into config.xml, and that is where its configuration is handled. So administration server does all the changes, and your configuration is being changed through that, and everything is being logged into domain log. So this, any configuration you want to change, you can do it for managed server once. And this managed servers, all these managed servers, they can be part of a cluster or they can be outside a cluster. So if something is outside a cluster, those are independent managed servers running on their own, and they have their own logging mechanism. So those logs get connected to admin server. Right, so this is another typical example. So I will answer Reddy's question in a while about node manager. He asked me that some time ago. So this is about admin server. Admin server is your server. It is your which controls all your resources, all your changes, all your configuration changes, everything in the system. Any changes to your WebLogic environment can be done only when your admin server is up and running. And any changes you do, those get reflected, once you bounce those servers. So managed server, so admin server is a special server which controls the whole environment, which does all changes, utility, every logging mechanism, everything. And then any additional servers you create apart from your admin server are called your managed server instances. So in this diagram, for example, this is the Weblogic cluster, and you have this administration server. And then you have node manager, WebLogic server, node manager, WebLogic server. So these nodes, they are connected to each of the managed servers, and they are handling those managed servers. Okay, so node manager. So this is what Reddy was asking. So node manager is independent of your admin server or managed server. It is actually a utility which enables you to start, shut down, or restart your administration server or managed server. Even you can do it remotely if you enroll your node manager. And these in the 12C, you got node manager as per domain and per server. That means in case you have two domains within the same server, you can have node manager per domain, or you can create node manager in a server and you can control all your domains using it. So this diagram typically shows you the example. So start node manager server B, and your administration console is connected to admin server on machine 1. On machine 2, you have manage server B. Your node manager is here, which can start your manage server B, and also it can contact your admin server, and it can stop your admin server as well. And you can start your admin server as well using your node manager. So node manager is independent. Even your admin server or manage server is down, your node manager is independent, and it can be start and stop on its own. Right, so this is for developers, just to see what all applications it comes in. So you can have proxies such as OTD, Apache, or OHS, and then this Oracle. Right, so let's see about cluster. So you have a firewall, you have a load balancer in between, you can use HTTP server, and then you can have servers as a part of cluster. So within cluster is nothing but your combination of server. You can have collection of servers together in a cluster, so that you can load balance them. If a request comes in from outside, if server A is down, it can automatically go to server B, or if server B is down, it can automatically go to server A depending upon its availability. So this is how the flows goes. Your request passes through a firewall, go to a load balancer, which is a web proxy layer, and then it further goes into your domain. And then depending upon which server is available, it goes to that server and processes that request. So this is cluster high availability. You can have active system, or you can have active passive system. So you can have 2 nodes available. Both can be an active, or you can have it on active passive mode. So one of them is not available, other one takes it automatically. Okay, this is high availability with WebTer. So you can have Apache, or you can have HTTP server, and with you can cluster it with the cluster WebLogic server. You can integrate it with HTTP server to load balance your requests. Okay, there is a new feature in 12c called dynamic cluster, which is the interesting one. As you would have worked with the earlier systems where WebLogic used to work, you had one cluster, you have added servers to it, but all the servers will be running at one time. But with dynamic cluster, you are getting additional facility, and they have brought it in terms of cloud. So if you create 4 servers, and you can make them 2 servers run at a time. So in case any of the server goes down for some reason, another server gets started on its own. So that is one of the advantages of this dynamic cluster. Okay, so WebLogic administration and monitoring. Okay, what do you need? So you have a number of tools, as we discussed earlier. You have administration console, you have EM console, and you have WLST. So if you want to control your environment or monitor your environment or do log management, you want to change something, you can do it through your administration console. Is the primary one which people prefer, and they use it because they log in first there. Or you can do it through EM console, or if you're good with command line, you can use WLST tool as well. So what administration console does, there are some features. So you can start, configure, stop your WebLogic server. You can configure your cluster. You can configure WebLogic services such as database connectivity, JDBC, or JMS. You can configure security parameters, including users, group roles, which is part of your security. You decide who should log in, what are their roles, what are their authorizations, and configure and deploy your applications. So you can configure and deploy your applications. You can monitor server and see its performance. You can view server or domain logs, and you can see application deployment descriptors. You can select runtime deployment descriptors elements. You can even control coherent servers if there are any, and create and configure coherent cluster as well. So these are the features, typical features of which administrator, WebLogic administrator do on a daily basis. There are many other features, like you can create your JDBC connections, you can do something with the JMS. So there are various other activities as well you can do. But these are the ones which most of the time you will be doing it. And this facility is provided by your console. Okay, so slightly I have introduced multi-tenancy as well. That's for the reason because in 12c it's quite new. And even though many of the customers, they don't work with it, but it is good to know that. And in future, if it is required, you can always work with it because it's new feature and very entertaining one. Right. So why multi-tenancy? First of all, why this came into picture? Oracle has put huge investment into this particular piece of information for the reason being they wanted their WebLogic to be efficient and work like a cloud. As I said, their investment was more into cloud. They wanted this feature. So what it does, it provides portability for DevOps. So like if you want to move from your on-premises to cloud or from cloud to on-premises, this is very easy using this micro container, which is more like if you would have heard of Docker, it is similar to a Docker feature where you have a partitions is running on your on-premises. You take that partition, export that partition, and you can import that partition onto your cloud Weblogic. So it's quite easy. It has become more like a pluggable container. So you take it from here and put it there. So it's quite easy. Second thing, Oracle wanted it to provide consolidation ratio. So JVM is being shared here. You know, your JVM which is running on your server. So in earlier, if you have worked without domain partitions, if managed server is running with 2 GB or 4 GB of memory, all 4 GB is being allocated to that managed server. But here in the new system, if you go for domain partitions, even though your JVM also can be shared for the resources. So that's one of the most exciting features of this multi-tenancy. Another one is secure isolated. Now, even though it is sharing the space in terms of running the applications and other resources, but still it is isolated in the terms that if there is a particular request, that doesn't hamper the request of the other ones. So everything is being isolated and secure. So there is no security issue, and isolation is provided at domain level or resource level to all the systems. So that's the advantage of the multi-tenancy. That's why it's neat, and it is getting popular with masses. Right. So this is what are the key benefits. So key benefits is enable DevOps like feature. It accelerate application delivery on premises in the cloud. Okay, it just went in. It reduces total cost of ownership. So that means if you want earlier, if you wanted more servers, you would have bought additional servers, but now within the same JVM, you can share it. So that's easy. And it simplifies cloud infrastructure. Key features, it's pluggable partitions. You know, it's micro containers, so you can easily plug and play. And it's a high density deployment. So within, it can share JVM and you can, deploy resources easily. There is an isolation between micro containers within the shared infrastructure. Like I said, even though it is sharing the resources, but still there is the isolation. It doesn't touch requests for the other one. And there is end-to-end integration across the web tier, middle tier, cache tier, and data tier. So this is what we'll say in the coming slides. There is an end-to-end integration. I'll show you further in the slide. Okay, yeah, right here. So this is how end-to-end looks. So let's say if you have multi-tenant architecture and you have done domain partition. So this is your partition 1, partition 2. So any request coming in for one of the, let's say you have an auto management tool and another cycle management tool. So one of the requests goes to partition 1, another goes to partition 2, which you can segregate through Oracle Traffic Director as shown in this picture. And then this request goes to partition 1, this request goes to partition 2, which is being shared. And you can see even the cache is being shared in terms of Oracle coherence. So Oracle Weblogic Server, this is partition is being sharing resources. Similarly, Oracle coherence cache is being shared, and which in turn goes to your database, which generally you will be using a grid or rack, which is, in database also you have multi-tenant feature available. So you can use that to integrate it with your Weblogic multi-tenant feature. Right, so what is domain partitions? To understand it simply, let's say in older environment, if you wanted 2 domains, you would have created something like domain 1 and domain 2. For example, here you have domain app and domain order. You have created 2 domains for one job, which is more like similar. There are a couple of things which are quite similar. You have a booking application here on the first one, and order management and order reports on the second one. Now, the similar job can be done within the same domain using multi-tenant feature. So instead of creating domains, instead what you will do, you will just create one domain. Instead of creating 2 domains, you will create a partition. So we'll create partition app and partition order, and you will use this booking app you will deploy here, and order management or order reports will be deployed onto the partition 2. Advantage would be that here you would need, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 servers. But if you say here, you are just making 4 servers. So you saved about 1 server, which may be 4 GB. So you're saving that much space. So considering for an organization, it's a big saving. If they have hundreds of servers, it saves them 400 GB of memory and other resources for them. So it's a big advantage for organizations, for bigger organizations to use that way, in case they have similar features to use. Right, so what are the benefits? So it improves density and resource utilization, which we have seen in our slides, environment consolidations and portability. Now what is shared? So domain, this shows you what is shared and what is not shared. So domain is being shared, Weblogic server is shared, JVM is shared, operating system is shared. But as I said, there is a layer of isolation. So application data is not being shared. So all these, if you see right here, booking app will have access to its own data, and management order reports will have access to its own data. So it's not being shared across. Similarly, application configuration for booking app or order management will be different. There won't be any changes. It won't be similarly, and runtime will not be affected. Right, I think this probably would be the last one for today, and this is just for your info. Someone who is curious. This is WebLogic versioning info, because I've seen many times, and whenever I interview someone, I just ask them, how this WebLogic versioning is being portrayed, and I see people not able to answer that. So I just thought I will do this. So right, so just in case if you know, it's good. In case you don't, how these numbers come into picture. So let's say this WebLogic version is 12.1, 12.2.1, 0.0. So what does each of these 12 means? And so 2 becomes a version release, which Oracle releases. The one is final version. That is known as one version. So 12.2.1. So one becomes final version. Then other one is added. 12.2.1. So 12 is this one is how your working information is. So this is just for your info. Is there to give you a brief overview? If in case something goes wrong, so these are some of the tasks which you can see. You want to see the details in the website, and background can have. So I think I'm done with my session, and this is ready. Ravi, did I answer the question, or you need something on that for node manager? I can explain further. So this is for you guys. Okay, so this is for you guys. So I have a bit on this session, although this was not very elaborative. I just gave you a glimpse of thing of what all are there. So just in case, I would ask you guys listening, and if you were active, you would know now what is an network, what is domain in web, what is managed server, what is cluster, and what is WebLogic. So do you have idea on of these 5 questions, or you know all of them by now? So I see some questions. I will give you a chance to ask questions. After this, we will have questions. So whatever questions you want to shoot, you can shoot it to me. Okay, just for now, this is for everyone. These are the 5 questions which I would like you guys to answer. So just pick these and answer me. What is an admin server? Who wants to answer that? Do you guys know what an admin server is? What now? Right, that's right, Pramod. That's right. Okay, what about domain? Server. All right, so this is you guys, so that you follow on later on. Okay, now just move in. If you would like to take some time, you can. Right, so this is end of session from my. If you got any questions, you now you can shoot it. I will be glad to answer that.